think I'm on the air. I hope so. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. What camera am I on? Camera 1. You guys. Over there. Hi boys and girls. It's me, Butch. My name is Terry David Silvercloud. I'm not native. It just sounds that way. Google Butch himself to find me. Today is Friday the 7th of February. And it's 10 after 2 in the afternoon, and what I'm doing is some testing of 4 cameras and the lighting in my place, because I'm not well in spite of how I look, and I'm trying to be useful and educational and entertaining primarily to the lgbtq community. But I'm a nerd, I'm into science. I've discovered that making science videos doesn't get anywhere because we nerds, you know what I'm talking about. You want action, you want something. I don't know what you want, but people have been coming lately, and I think, no pun intended, people have been coming lately. Oh, that's a good one, Butch. To see me, and I'm not sure why, but I'm on that camera. What camera am I on here? I'm on camera 3, 1, 2, oh, you. Oh, sorry about that. You guys. So people have been coming, and I don't know why, so I assume it's mostly to see me and what a weird person I am. I have no idea. But thank you for coming. That's just so awesome. Keep coming. That's such a good one. And I didn't pre-plan that one. So why am I here? Well, I'm 80 years old. I have severe arthritis. I have multiple injuries throughout, mostly on my back and neck, from car accidents and falls, most of which, other than falling off a little cliff, all the car accidents were other people driving, people hitting. Anyhow, I have old injuries bothering me, arthritis, and I have severe hormone problems. So you may pick up on odd blotches on me. They're getting better, I hope. They're the result of my having, can't remember what it's called, gonadism or something. My body in my old age stopped making enough testosterone. So all you guys over 40, have your hormones checked. I'm in hormone therapy. I'm temporarily off of it, but I'm going to be back on it starting on Tuesday. They had to check my heart out. I'm not well, but I encourage all of you to try and stay in shape. I'm 80. If I can do it, you can do it. I mean, not all of you, but 90% of you. If I can do it, you can do it. The difference is I've sort of been in, I've sort of looked after myself my whole life. And if you're starting late, don't rush it. You can do it. Even in my old age, because I'm so vain, and to keep my muscles up, I use these 15-pound dumbbells every day now, because I'm trying to keep my biceps filled in, and if I do that, they will. Otherwise, I have just too much loose skin, because I like being skinny. I have a bit of a gut, and that's a result of, I didn't know amongst all my many problems 15 years ago that hormones were among them, and I gained 25 pounds, and things were so bad in my life I didn't give a crap. Now I do, because I'm very vain. I've always been a leader. That's another story. So I want to tell you how I got the name Butch. I wasn't born with the name Butch, and I wasn't born with the name Terry David Silvercloud either. I have a history of changing my name or adding my names, and this may be of help to you, because if you're going through a difficulty in your life, where you're experiencing some sort of emotional difficulty or something, give yourself a nickname, just change your identity. Work on it. It's not that hard. And an easy way to start is just simply change your name. Now for me, what happened was is that when I was 18, about to be 19, I'd applied with the Canadian military to go to university with the Navy, and they'd accepted me. But in those days, in grade 13, you had to, in Ontario, you had to do grade 13, and because I was smart, I didn't do any homework. I was very dysfunctional in some ways. I didn't know I was a nerd, even though I was the smartest kid in the class. I was a real loner. I didn't know I was queer. All those sometimes gay kids issues I had. Anyhow, I flunked algebra or something, so it would have meant I would have had to repeat grade 13, and I just wanted to get on with life. And my mother, I guess there was 5 kids and we were poor. She was working on getting me out of the house. She told me about the Navy's alternate plan, or she had noticed that they were desperate for pilots and officers, and they had a thing called the short service officer plan. You sign up for 7 years, and all you needed was high school, and I had already been accepted by the Navy. So they said, oh yeah, come on boy, we'll take you. But then when I was in the Navy, I discovered what gay was, and I was it. So I didn't really have any conception of gay until I was about 22 or 23 years old. I'd already been, I sort of really came out, started being sexual around age 22 without accepting that I was gay. I seduced another guy, and I was a navigator of a repair ship. Then I went to submarine school in England, and that's when I came out. On weekends, we had weekends off because it was a school. I was in submarine school in England, and so I went up to London, and at the time in Canada I was driving an MGB little sports car. And I could buy one duty free in England, so I sold that one and I bought another in England. And I would drive up to London on weekends and just hang out in London, and I would stay at a Turkish bath where I first discovered that was one of the areas. Somebody told me about one of my first experiences, that it wasn't a gay bath, but things happened. So my very first gay experience, my very, very first me aggressively going out looking for another guy, I had noticed around Leicester Square there was a shop that sold magazines and cigarettes, and they had a lot of European male nude magazines. I thought if I just sort of hung around, watched who maybe bought one of those magazines, that would help. And at the time I was there, nobody did, and that didn't help. And the shop was closing around 8 or something. I don't remember exactly when, but the shop was closing in the evening, and somehow my memory's a bit foggy on that, but outside the shop or somewhere near there, I started talking to another guy, and we picked each other up, and we were both virgins. He'd just been drafted and was taking a vacation before going off to Vietnam or somewhere, and he was my first sexual experience, and it was fun for me. Hope it was fun for him. Chris Appel, if you're still alive. It was awesome for me. And I'm a cocksucker. Am I allowed to say that? Did I say that? You didn't hear that. YouTube is so fussy. I'm afraid of what I can say. Anyhow, that was great. But my next experience, again, I went and hung out around the Leicester Square area, and I gave up on that. And I was walking back towards Piccadilly Circus, and I saw this really, really attractive guy walking towards me, and we sort of locked eyes, and I knew that he knew that I knew that he knew that I just knew. Instinct kicked in, and I went into a penny arcade, and he followed me, and he took me home, and he was a top, and he over breakfast. He clued me into a whole lot of things. I thought he was about my age, and I was 22 or 23, and he was nearly 30. But he was an actor, and he was the lead actor in one of the plays that were happening. So anyhow, that was experience number 2. And one of the things he told me about was the pub called the Bear Pub underneath Leicester Squares was gay at lunchtime. So I would hang out there, but there's a previous incident that's important here. When I was driving around Piccadilly Circus in my MGB, which was convertible, I noticed this beautiful, beautiful blondish hair guy hanging out there a lot, and so one day I parked and went over and talked to him, because by now I'd had a couple of experiences, and I'm sort of bold anyway, and he said he was trade. It didn't take me more than a split second to figure out what that meant, so I said, oh, I don't really have enough money for that right now, but if I did, I would, and I'm not going to tie up your time because you're here to make money. And he told me his name was David. That's important. So, excuse me, I got dry throat here. This is so long ago, I'm sequencing the times. It can get a little difficult. Let's go over to 4 over here. And so I'm in the Bear Pub at lunchtime at some point, and a gentleman who was very conservatively dressed, and I reckon to be in his late 30s or early 40s, excuse me, he offered to buy me a drink, and I was broke at the time. I said, sure, so he bought me a drink. A beer or something, I don't remember. And there wasn't anybody there that I thought I was going to pick up or anything in my memory. It's too blurry now, but I was talking to him, and he wanted to know if I would go back to a hotel room with him. So I figured, oh, he thinks I'm trade. He's not really here. He's here to pick me up, but he thinks I'm in it for the money. So I said yes. Why not? So when we got back, he had already checked out of the hotel. This is going to cost him a lot of money because he's going to have to pay for a hotel room to get down and close with me. And I had no idea what he was going to do, but I thought, let's see what happens. This is all new stuff to me. I'm 23, and he wasn't ugly or anything. It wasn't my type at all. Not even remotely. But he was a clean guy. So we got back to the hotel room, and I was undressing in the Navy because we all use the same laundromat. You have to stencil your name on everything. So on my underwear, it had my last name. And when he had, I don't remember the exact details, but he got in, somehow he had asked me my name or something. And because I was in the Navy and terrified that you could go to jail in those days for being gay, and certainly they just kicked me right out of the Navy. So when he asked me my name, the first name that popped into my head was David, the beautiful blonde guy. So ever thereafter, in my gay encounters, I was David. So I went on for another couple of years in the Navy, and I did leave a bit early because that's another story. Not because I was gay. They found out I was going to leave earlier, and they got really pissed off, and they just said, oh, I want you to go now. And we had a big fight over it. But when I left the Navy, I had more gay friends, like people I hung out with, and straight friends, and my very few straight friends that I was close to, they knew I was gay, and they knew my name was David. For instance, one of my fellow, let me see, which one was it? I had a couple of instances like this. One of my buddies I went through officer school with, he was an aircraft controller on the aircraft carrier. And one night I agreed to meet him for I can't remember what reason at a pub in Halifax. And sitting with me were some other gay guys, one of whom I knew was a sailor. I knew he was a sailor. He wasn't wearing sailor clothes. We were all civilian dressed. And my buddy from officer school way a couple of years earlier, we were really good friends, and he knew I was gay. And he's the one that turned me on to marijuana on the aircraft carrier. He came into the pub and walked over to the table where I was at, and he was like immediately like shocked, and the sailor beside me was like, and I was like, what's going on here? And it turns out my buddy was the sailor's divisional officer on the aircraft carrier. So I told the sailor, that's okay, don't worry, everything's cool. Because the sailor was like totally freaked out. This would have been like the end of him. And so I told him that was cool. So where am I going with this? So I was a David to my close friends, and that was just sort of my name. Now, what happened was that I did fall in love, and I ran off to England with my boyfriend and came back to Canada, and we moved out. I moved, he did whatever. He followed me. I'm the boss around here. It wasn't quite like that, but whatever I did, that was what was happening. And while I was in Vancouver, the whole hippie thing was happening, and I was introduced to mushrooms and LSD and all kinds of things. And one time when I was coming home from a friend's place in Vancouver, I didn't mean to say that twice. In Vancouver, we get these summer storms where there's big clouds, and we get a downpour and then the sky clears, and there's this beautiful big clouds. Everything's wet and shiny and beautiful, and if you've done psychedelics, everything's really sparkly. So I was coming down off mushrooms, I think was what it was, in Kitsilano, and what started happening in my head, as I remember it, was a phrase: every cloud has a silver lining, every lining has a silver cloud. And it just kept going over and over and over again in my head. And somewhere along the line, I literally stopped. Thought, that's me. I'm Silver Cloud. That's me. I'm Silver Cloud. I can't tell you. That's how it happened. So I started to, because it was very hippie to have beautiful names, and the native connection to Native American didn't even dawn on me at all until later. So I started telling everybody my name was Silver Cloud, and so all my friends would call me Cloud or Cloudy, Silver Cloud. A lot of people just called me Cloud or Cloudy, Cloud, a Cloud, that sort of thing. So now I'm mostly being known by the name Silver Cloud and David. And then I moved eventually back to Toronto, and there's a long boyfriend story in here, but that's another story. And boyfriend died in 1994, but somewhere along the line in there, I had a financial thing, which in my brain isn't connecting right now, but I declared bankruptcy, and that causes all kinds of problems. But it wasn't as serious as you would think, except it hasn't. It's really a drag. But because I was working as a photographer, it turned out I never did need a passport, but for photography. But I might need a passport, and legally, if you operate in a business as a personality in Canada, I don't know what it's like in the States, you can get a passport in the name of your personality. The government knows who you are. They know who you really are. It's no secret, because when you apply, they know who you really are already. You just want a different name. And there's all kinds of reasons, like political refugee reasons, why the government allows you to have a different name. It's to help protect you from, they don't care. As long as the government knows who you are, they don't care. So my passport, to pick a name, I decided to use all of my names. So I grew up as a Terry, and then I was known as David, and then I was Silvercloud, so I became Terry David Silvercloud on my passport. And then through somebody screwing me around 1997, I was working in very, very high-end commercial photography in Toronto. Fashion, product, cars, booze, that kind of stuff. I dusted off Rob Lowe's shoulders, met Keanu Reeves. I love photography, but I had to give it up, and I didn't know that digital was coming, so it worked out okay. But because if somebody screwed me around, I lost my studio. I thought, that's it, I retire. And I moved to Vancouver, and when I moved out here, my younger brother, who's dead now, he died of a accidental fentanyl overdose quite a few years ago now. He was trying to start a little paper, and he taught me how to use a computer and how to use Word. It was a program, an Adobe program that people made magazines with, out of which they made magazines. And he really could use me because I could type without looking at the keyboard. And so at that time, I thought, I'm just going to retire until I retire, I'm going to just find a building to look after. And I found one, and I had the job, and I was in there filling out some paperwork for the guy who was hiring me, and he saw my passport in my back pocket. He said, "Oh, can I see your passport?" And I didn't think anything of it. I said, "Sure, here." So he's seeing me applying by my real name, which isn't my real name anymore, Alexander Terrence Blair. That's what my mom and dad gave me. Alexander after my dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. Terrence, because my mom liked Terry and the Pirates, and she spelled it with 2 R's. There's 4 ways to spell Terrence. And Blair was my family name. It's an Irish sort of name. So anyhow, I was applying in my real name, and he saw my passport, and he's seeing Terry David Silvercloud and Alexander Terrence Blair. What's going on here? He threw me out. He literally threw me out. Not physically, but quite vocally. Very mean. Very weird. So I decided to legally change my name, and I went and got the forms, and I legally changed my name. So legally, my legal name is Terry, that I grew up with. David, my sort of gay period name, Silvercloud. And, this is getting to be a really long video. Where did Butch come from? I should just make the whole thing all over again, make it shorter. You can skip along, right? So Butch, where did Butch come from? Well, my brother taught me to use a computer, and I got on the internet around 1998. And back in the olden days, they had bulletin boards, long before YouTube, before Facebook, before all of that stuff. There were bulletin boards, and because I was being fairly lonely in Vancouver, you know, I left my straight boyfriend back in Toronto, and he was moving to New York anyway, and I didn't really know anybody out here. And I like twinks, so I'm not really easily. I wasn't really looking. I'd just go to the baths, bonk somebody. So where am I going with this? So I signed up on a bulletin board called straight-acting.com. They're long gone. They died long ago. And I was with them for a while, and I thought they're not really all that straight acting. There's quite a few jocks, quite a few mechanics, but they weren't straight acting. They were gay acting mechanics and gay acting. That's how I took it. I grew up in I was in the Navy, not knowing I was gay. So I quit once, and then when I came back the next time, you're supposed to have a username like many places, so I was trying to think of a username, and for some bizarre reason, because it was a Butch board, I thought, I wonder how many Butches there are on the Butch board. That was probably the question that went through my head. It turned out there were none. Not one single Butch out of 2,000 or 3,000 users on the Butch board. But what? How straight acting are you guys? So I became Butch on the Butch board. And I suggested to them that they take the domain name butchboard.com because nobody had it. And they said, hey, no, we're doing good. We're going to be rich and something. They thought this is it straight. They don't exist. And I own butchboard.com. It's my homepage. And it'll be there, and I guess for a while after I die, and then I don't know what'll happen to it, but that's my homepage, is butchboard.com. And then through YouTube stuff, I just started becoming Butch. I adopted the name Butch. I was trying to get over my boyfriend dying and start a new life, and because I'm going to try and wrap this up because I've gone on and on and on. That's really, I guess, what I want to tell you is if you want to get yourself into a new headspace, give yourself a new name, okay? I'm trying to pose here because I'm going to say goodbye. Adopt a new name, and that looks pretty good. That may help you. Just pick a name, any name. You can always change it. So Butch is going to say goodbye. I think I am on... I don't even know what camera I'm on anymore. I'm on camera 2. You guys right there. So Butch is going to say bye-bye, and I have to put on my glasses. I can't see worth crap anymore to stop the recording. And I'm doing this on Open Broadcast System, recording on OBS. It's free. A little bit tricky to learn to use, but pretty good program. Bye.